Restoration, in the Bible, means God's promise to renew what's been lost or damaged. Whether personal, relational, or communal, it involves bringing healing and wholeness. As seen in Job's story and Joel's prophecy, God's restoration often surpasses what was lost, offering greater blessings and renewed purpose. Today, I want to speak to you about a powerful promise from our Heavenly Father. God will restore your wasted years. Many of us have faced seasons where it felt like time was lost, opportunities missed, dreams deferred, or joy diminished. But let me assure you, our God is a God of restoration. The scripture says in Joel 2 verse 25, "I will repay you for the years the locusts have eaten." This promise is a divine assurance that no matter what we've been through, God is committed to restoring what we've lost. Whether it's in our personal lives, our relationships, or our spiritual journey, God is in the business of making all things new. Imagine for a moment the devastation described in this passage. The locusts were relentless, stripping the land of its vitality and leaving nothing but barren fields. This imagery is profound because it represents the times in our lives when we feel like we've been stripped bare, when it seems like everything we've worked for has been consumed by relentless challenges and setbacks. But here's the incredible truth: God's promise of restoration is just as vivid and powerful. He doesn't merely promise to help us through our difficulties, He promises to repay us for the losses we've endured. This is a promise of profound renewal. It means that whatever has been taken from us, whether it's time, opportunities, or joy, God is committed to making things right and even better than before. When we face adversity, it can often feel overwhelming and all-consuming. We might wonder if we'll ever recover, if things will ever be the same. But God's promise in Joel 2 verse 25 reassures us that recovery is not just possible, it's guaranteed. God is in the business of restoration, and He specializes in turning our losses into gains. This promise is not just about the future. It's about the present, here and now. It's about having hope in the midst of your current struggles. If you've faced personal trials, if you're dealing with broken relationships, or if you've experienced setbacks that seem insurmountable, remember that God's restoration is already in motion. He's working behind the scenes to bring about a season of renewal. I want you to let this promise sink deeply into your heart. It's easy to feel discouraged when things aren't going our way, when the locusts of life seem to be consuming everything we hold dear. But God's promise is a beacon of hope, shining brightly even in our darkest moments. It tells us that our God sees our pain, understands our loss, and is committed to giving us back even more than we had before. As we embrace this promise, it's important to take a step of faith. Just as the people of Judah were called to turn back to God, we are invited to trust in His plan and His timing. It might require patience and perseverance, but the reward is worth it. When we align our lives with His will and trust in His promise, we open ourselves up to a future filled with blessings and restoration. Think about the areas in your life where you've experienced loss. Imagine those areas being restored and renewed. Picture them flourishing and thriving beyond what you thought possible. That's the kind of restoration God is talking about. It's not just about returning to what was, it's about moving forward into something even greater. So today, hold on to this promise with both hands. Let it fill you with hope and strengthen your faith. Trust that God is not only aware of your struggles but is actively working to bring about a beautiful restoration. His promise to repay you for the years the locusts have eaten is a testament to His love and His power. Walk confidently into the future, knowing that God's restoration is at hand. Embrace His promise with a heart full of expectation and joy. Your best days are ahead of you, and God is preparing a future that exceeds your wildest dreams. Let's discuss further into how this promise is intertwined with another gospel truth found in Romans 8 verse 28. The verse reads, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." Just as Joel's promise speaks to God's commitment to restore what the locusts have eaten, Romans 8 verse 28 expands our understanding of God's active role in our lives. It assures us that no matter the challenges we face, God is always at work, orchestrating every detail for our good. Think about that for a moment. In every aspect of your life, in every situation, even the ones that seem the most challenging, God is working with a purpose. The locusts of our lives, those trials and tribulations that seem to strip away our hopes and dreams, are not beyond the reach of God's redemptive power. Instead, Romans 8 verse 28 tells us that God is using every circumstance, every setback, and every hardship to ultimately bring about good for those who love Him and are aligned with His purpose. This is an incredible promise that builds upon the assurance of restoration from Joel 2 verse 25. It tells us that not only will God restore what has been lost, but He will also take every situation, every struggle, and work it into a greater plan for our benefit. The restoration isn't merely about returning to where we were before, it's about advancing to something far greater. When we face difficulties, it can be easy to feel as though we are stuck in a cycle of loss and frustration. But Romans 8 verse 28 reminds us that there is a divine orchestration at work. God's commitment to our good means that every experience, even the painful ones, are being woven into a larger tapestry of blessing and purpose. Our losses are not in vain. They are being transformed into opportunities for growth, strength, and ultimate good. This promise also encourages us to deepen our relationship with God. Loving Him and being called according to His purpose is the foundation upon which we can trust in this divine plan. When we align our lives with His will, we are not only recipients of His promises but active participants in His purpose. We become part of a greater narrative where our struggles are transformed into testimonies of His goodness and faithfulness. As we embrace this truth, it empowers us to navigate life's challenges with renewed hope and confidence. The locusts may have come, and we may have experienced loss, but we can trust that God is at work in every situation, turning it for our good. This perspective transforms how we approach our difficulties. Instead of being overwhelmed by them, we can face them with the assurance that God is using them to bring about a greater good. So let us hold on to both promises with faith, the promise of restoration in Joel 2 verse 25 and the promise of divine purpose in Romans 8 verse 28. Let these truths inspire us to persevere through our trials, to remain steadfast in our love for God, and to live purposefully according to His calling. Remember, God is not just restoring what was lost, He is actively working all things for our good, crafting every detail of our lives into a beautiful and purposeful design. Embrace this promise with confidence, knowing that God's hand is guiding you, His plans are unfolding, and His goodness is assured. We can also see a testimony from David in Psalm 23 verse 3, "He restores my soul." This verse encapsulates a fundamental truth about restoration. It is fundamentally a work of God. It shows that He has been doing it in the past and He is an unchangeable God. When we talk about restoration, whether it's healing from personal wounds, rejuvenating relationships, or finding renewal in our spiritual lives, it's important to understand that this process is driven by God's divine initiative. While human effort, faith, and action play critical roles, the ultimate source and power for genuine restoration come from God alone. Psalm 23 verse 3 beautifully illustrates this principle. He restores my soul. This declaration is not merely a statement of hope but a profound acknowledgement of God's active role in our healing and renewal. It's not just about superficial fixes or temporary improvements, it's about a deep, soul-level restoration that only God can provide. Imagine the depth of this promise. When David says that God restores his soul, he is speaking to a process that goes beyond physical or external restoration. The soul represents our innermost being, our emotions, our spirit, our very essence. It's where our deepest wounds and greatest needs reside. And it's here, in this profound and vulnerable place, that God's restorative work is most needed and most transformative. To restore the soul is to bring about a complete revitalization. It's about healing past hurts, renewing our strength, and refreshing our spirit. This is not a work that we can accomplish on our own. Despite our best efforts, true and lasting renewal comes from God's divine intervention. He initiates this process, guiding us through our brokenness and leading us to wholeness. Consider the implications of this divine initiative in our lives. When we face periods of struggle or brokenness, we might find ourselves trying to mend what is fractured with our own strength and resources. While our efforts are important, they are ultimately limited. We may experience temporary relief, but true restoration involves more than just surface-level fixes. It requires a profound transformation that only God can bring about. This divine restoration is also a testament to God's intimate involvement in our lives. He doesn't remain distant or uninvolved. Instead, He engages deeply with our pain and our needs. Psalm 23 verse 3 reflects a personal, caring God who is actively working to heal and renew us. It's an assurance that we are not alone in our struggles. God is intimately present, working to restore every aspect of our being. Furthermore, understanding that restoration is a divine initiative shifts our perspective. It encourages us to trust in God's timing and His methods. Sometimes, the process of restoration may take longer than we expect, and it may not follow the path we envision. But knowing that God is the one initiating and completing this work allows us to surrender our own plans and trust in His perfect and loving design. In practical terms, this means that when we are seeking restoration, whether in our personal lives, our relationships, or our spiritual journey, we can look to God as the ultimate source of renewal. We engage with the process, but we do so with the confidence that God is the one bringing about true and lasting change. We ask for His guidance, rely on His strength, and trust in His ability to restore our souls fully. So as you move forward, remember that restoration is fundamentally a divine work. Embrace Psalm 23 verse 3 as a source of comfort and assurance. Let it remind you that God is actively restoring your soul, healing your wounds, and revitalizing your spirit. Trust in His divine initiative, knowing that He is not only involved but is the ultimate source of your renewal and restoration. May you experience the profound depth of God's restorative work in your life, and may His divine initiative bring about a complete and beautiful renewal in every aspect of your being. Thank you for being here today, and may you walk in the fullness of these promises, experiencing both the restoration and the divine purpose that God has for your life.